Oh hey, a quick note on this video. It is super windy right now, and so I apologize if any of the sound is not so good, but it's really windy here in Kansas today. My Uncle Rick is the best storyteller ever, and we actually give him grief because he'll tell a story about some subject and then start telling a story about some other subject, and then he has this unique, really great ability to tie them together. I'm going to tell you the story about the shape of the Cinagro Garden, but I'm going to tell you a different story and then I'm going to link them together. And hey, that's what's next on Cinagro Gardens. Growing up in an agricultural community in western Kansas, I had the unique and really great experience of farming with my dad and my brothers on their wheat farm. And so because it was such a large amount of space, we would use big equipment. And we used this 1254 Rogator sprayer. Now this thing had a 1,200 gallon stainless steel tank and 90-foot booms, I believe. It was a monster. And we could cover a quarter section of ground, which is 160 acres of ground, in about an hour and a half. That was really impressive. Hopefully in Uncle Rick fashion, I'm going to tell you another story and then link those together. I was reading this book, and a man is explaining how he finally got the guts to ask his Mennonite neighbor, why is it that you guys do not allow tractors? And the Mennonite neighbor answers the question with his own question and says, when do you start raising a child? The man pauses and says, I don't know, when it's born? And the Mennonite neighbor answers so eloquently and says, no, you start raising a child 100 years before it's born, because that is when you start creating the environment in which that person is going to live their lives. They didn't allow tractors because they didn't allow rubber tires. And the reason why they didn't allow rubber tires is because they knew that the temptation of their agriculturalists would be to cover too much ground. If you're covering too much ground, you do not have an intimate relationship with the food that you're growing. So think about it. Your most precious resource, what is going to become bone of your bone and flesh of your flesh, needs your attention. I'm hoping you'll take a look at my logo, and then you'll notice the shape of the bed. So as I'm at the back of my hoop house, I'm gonna walk to the front, and I want you to notice the intimate relationship that I am forced to have with the soil that I am tending, which is producing the food that is going to become, again, bone of my bone and flesh of my flesh. So we're gonna start in the back, and we're going to make our way to the front of the garden. I noticed that this back here is a bit dry. I've got a dry spot back here, so I can keep an eye on that. I've also noticed that I've got all these ladybugs. There's tons of ladybugs we're gonna see as we walk through here. We got this bed of lettuce, and then I have Toscano kale and some interplanted turnips. Hey, there's another one. And I've got these radishes here. We have celery, lettuce. My tomatoes are all looking fantastic. This Bates blue kale is just gorgeous. This is a bed of baby arugula, and it is ready to harvest. I've got two different kinds of radishes here. These are French breakfast radish. That's a big shout out to my brother Josh Rathbun, the best chef that I know. How about this? These are Guardsman onions. They're phenomenal. These are some leeks, and then this is the same plant, and it is just needing to grow up. So from here, we'll go over to our red Russian kale, back around to the radishes we saw earlier. I've got several different kinds of plants here. We have some broccoli, and then we also have this really great cabbage. These are miniature romaines. They're phenomenal. How about this here? This is Swiss chard. This is like God's gift to the gardener. Over here we've got tatsoi, and then these carrots are incredible. As you can see, you can grow a whole bunch of carrots in a very small space. Come back over to more celery. I've got this guy. This plant here is flowering, and I'm going to let it flower and then create seeds so that I can have more seeds for next year. This here is a little bit dry, but it's okay. I'm going to water it here in a bit. Toscano kale, and I've got my new carrots seeding in here. And that's a little bit dry, so I need to water it some more. So hey, we're at the front of this garden, but notice how that forced me to notice everything that I'm growing right now. I have an intimate relationship with each plant because I am forced to walk past it every day. So that is the story behind the shape of the garden, because you need to be intimate with it. You need to know what's going on. And it's a joy when you do, because you get to watch it flourish. Again, as I will always remind you guys, Cinagro Gardens is here to encourage and empower everyone to grow.